Hi there, everybody. This is Carrie Hamblen, the CEO and president of the Las Cruces Green Chamber of Commerce, bringing to you again another one of our special series of Zoom chats highlighting our members, the Las Cruces Green Chamber members, who are participating in the annual 2025 Southern New Mexico Giving Day. Thanks to our friends at the Community Foundation of Southern New Mexico and the United Way of Southwest New Mexico, Las Cruces Green Chamber of Commerce is also partnering up to help elevate our member businesses, our nonprofits who are doing incredible work. And I have one of those right now. He's a familiar face and a voice in the community. Also somebody I've known for a long time, Walt Rubel, who is the general manager of KTAL Community Radio. Good morning, Walt. How are you?
Oh, I'm terrific, Carrie. Thanks so much for inviting me on today.
Oh, absolutely. We wouldn't have it any other way. And we're very excited. And I remember the original conversations of KTAL and how that was all going to start. But can you kind of give us a background on how KTAL Community Radio came about? Because it's a low power FM, which is a specific distinction. So if you can kind of explain that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Actually, it goes back to 2013. And Kevin Bixby, who at that time was leading the Southwest Environment Center, got an email from a friend in California letting him know that the FCC was about ready to issue these low power licenses. And for people who aren't familiar with what that is, they're always confusing us with PBS and NPR because we're certainly playing in the same arena. But those are the big kids. Those guys have coverage all over the state. They've got a staff of reporters should be paid professional reporters at KRWG and at stations throughout the country. We have none of that. We have to abide by a lot of the same rules. In both cases, we can't have commercials. And so that's obviously the biggest funding source for most radio stations and TV, which doesn't apply here. But we are entirely reliant upon the community for our survival. We don't get any help from the government. We get, and so that, and the purpose of the whole thing, why the FCC did it, was to provide more voices. They wanted to allow nonprofits, and you have to be a nonprofit to apply to get a community radio license, to get more diverse voices out on the airs and voices that are not tied to commercials in order to survive. And so that's the whole point behind it. And I also have to give a lot of credit to Nan Rubin. After Kevin Bixby got the ball rolling, Nan came in and she had a tremendous amount of experience. And I actually was a guest on the very first show that was on in July of 2017. And that was Speak Up Las Cruces,
Oh, how
which I
funny.
am kind of one of the main hosts of now. At that time, I was one of four guests, and Peter was the only host. We didn't have a producer. We were all crammed into the control room.
Mm-hmm.
And I had written a column saying that, and this will tell you what the time frame is, saying Yvette Harrell was the congresswoman, and I had written a column saying that the three Democrats who had thrown their hat in the ring up to that point wouldn't be able to beat her. And so he
Mm-hmm.
wanted to obviously object to that. And so not all three, the two of the three showed up, and we were all crammed in there. And that was in July 2017. And just to end that story, that was before Soche Torres Small entered the race and all those guys went away. So that's how it all
Wow.
got started.
Well, and when you talk about, somebody who was a paid reporter at KRWG for 20 years,
Yes.
it is important to have those different voices. And just for clarification for anybody, when you talk about not no commercials, you're underwriting. And with those
That's
underwriting, you
correct.
have certain criteria that those messages have to follow. There can't be a call to action.
That's
So
correct.
saying, come on over and buy today, because that would violate those rules that low power FM and public broadcasting have to follow.
Well, and they go even farther than that. We can't say prices even to the point of
Mhm.
saying that something is free.
Yeah.
The get around on that is we say something is open to the public. But it is very awkward, and we always have to remind our guests when they come on for interviews because it's just unnatural to promote something and then not finish it with some kind of, so we'd love to see you there, or some kind of what
Hmm.
would be considered to be a call to action. And I think we should say that with the FCC right now under the current administration, I think everybody needs to take those rules very seriously.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, with that, I mean, you talked about, you were a guest, one of the first guests on Speak Up Las Cruces. can you talk a little bit in general about the different types of programming to meet those needs of, voices being heard on the radio that weren't heard on the radio before?
Yeah, sure. Real quickly, the mission statement is to entertain, inform, challenge, inspire, and engage through an eclectic mix of musical, cultural, educational, and community affairs programming. That's sort of the bottom line. But to me, the bigger part is we offer stuff that isn't available anywhere else, and I focus a lot on the news side because that's where I live. But we have the only jazz shows on radio in Las Cruces, I believe. You're looking at me skeptically. If there's another one, I'm not aware of it.
Just from my years, I would say we'd have to look at the other schedule of the NPR station. But I think it's not like we're not big enough to have multiple jazz programs because we have those listeners that appreciate that.
And that was maybe a bad example. I'm pretty sure we have, the only death metal. We have the only all kinds of different genres where you're just not going to find that stuff anywhere.
Right, absolutely.
And none of it's top 40, the stuff being played on those shows.
Yeah, absolutely. And also a lot of, interview programs as well.
Yeah.
And you've got volunteers that really kind of bring their eclectic viewpoints to the airwaves, folks who are very much committed to helping volunteer and helping lift those voices and also bring things that we don't have on our standard radio stations here.
Yeah, a couple of those that I'd kind of like to highlight. Stuart Kelter, his show Delving In, and he only does it once a month, but it's amazing how much research he does. And he brings on really smart people and they talk about really complicated topics in a respectful way that is easy to follow, if that makes any sense. Just because he does so much preparation and work and does such a good job in picking guests. Greg Smith, who is not only a former member of the city council, but also a former head of the Arts Commission, has a show, took over Nan's old show, Cafe Con Leche, which focuses primarily on the local art scene. We have a new show called Mesilla Valley Sports Show. That's with Mike O'Leary and Brian Cox from Sports Accessories. And that focuses on both NMSU and high school sports. And then, of course, we have my show along with Peter Goodman, Nancy Baker, and Daisy Maldonado. And that is Speak Up Las Cruces. And we cover poetry, we cover what's going on at the Fountain Theater, we cover educational talks at NMSU. But the stuff I really wanted to highlight is the news stuff. I mean, we have had both Chief Story and Bobby Green in, not at the same time, but we've had them both on discussing the NAACP complaint against the police department. Chief Story's been on several times. He came on to talk about the shopping cart ordinance. He came on to talk about the initiative they put in place in honor of Jonah Hernandez. We had on critics and zoning people from the city to talk about Engage Las Cruces. We really make an effort. I know that certainly for the most part, the radio station in general politically leans left, but on our show especially, we really make an effort to have respectful discussions between both sides.
Well, and Walt, as we finish up today, like with many, and something that I did for 20 years was fundraise and ask for financial support. And so KTAL is participating in the 2025 Southern New Mexico Day of Giving. And so when folks give to KTAL Community Radio through Southern New Mexico Giving Day, which we're hoping, Friday the 25th is when it happens. Pre-giving starts on the 21st, but the actual day of fundraising amazingness is on April 25th. What happens if people give to KTAL Radio? How will that money be used if they participate in Southern New Mexico Giving Day for the radio station?
Well, the main thing I want to stress is we are entirely volunteers, myself included. And I took over this job on January 1st to learn that we were not in the shape we should be financially. We had a few months earlier than that, we had a control board that needed repair and we weren't able to fix it right away. And so instead of having our big main control board that we usually use for about a month or 6 weeks, we had to get by on this little tiny 6-channel mixer. So we have enough money in the bank that we're getting by, but we can't get through any bumps in the road like that. And I think we're to blame for that, to be honest. We have not been as vigilant over the last few years, after Nan left, especially with our fundraising, as we needed to be. That, I have to tell you, is such an awkward thing for me. As a newspaper reporter, if somebody offered me a bottle of water, I had to, ooh, is that going to compromise me? And so now to be out there with my hand out all the time asking for money is just feels very different, but is so necessary. And I'm learning how to do it. It's not natural at all, but I'm learning how to make connections. And I guess the answer to your program is survival. If we're not able to continue our fundraising efforts, we just won't be able to pay the tower bill and stay on the air.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're interested in supporting KTAL Community Radio or learning more about them, you can go ahead and go to the Southern New Mexico Giving Day website, which you'll see either above or below. And if you'd like to support KTAL, you can search them or any of your favorite nonprofits. The pre-giving day starts on April 21st. So you can look at them now, but you can't donate just yet. And you'll see that countdown clock on the site. But as you get closer, you can pre-give starting April 21st, and the actual day of just events galore for all of our participants is Friday, April 25th. We'd certainly love to be able to see you there. There's going to be a bunch of activities at the Community Foundation on that day. Green Chamber will be there as well, along with our other co-sponsor, the United Way of Southwest New Mexico. Walt, very happy to be able to do what you're doing, and if you ever need some fundraising tips on how to ask for money, I can help you. I can help you with that.
I'll take you up on that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all of what you're doing, and for all the announcers who are doing some great work and bringing a variety of broadcasting to Southern New Mexico. So thank you so much, Walt, and you have a fabulous day.
Thanks, and thanks to everybody in the Green Chamber and the foundation that's putting this together.